I want to just end by asking you a big picture question. Relations seem to be very, very bad. I mean, really bad between you and the United States. You have moved, Russia has moved missiles capable of nuclear warheads into Kaliningrad, which is, as we know, next to a couple of NATO countries. Your Defense Department has threatened any US military action in Syria, saying that it would be taken as a direct threat to Russian servicemen, and warned them not to do it. And your president has pulled out of several agreements which were to do with disposing the nuclear missile, the nuclear material plutonium. Is it going to get worse? I mean, people are kind of worried. Is this a Cold War moment? Could this degenerate into an actual war between the two sides?
Well, I don't think so. It is not our intention at all. We read, of course, statements of the American military that the war is inevitable with Russia. I leave this on their conscience. As regards deployment of weapons on our territory, this is our territory. And,
it's pretty scary.
Well, it's our territory. But the plans of the United States, not only to, well, they quadrupled, I think, the money allocated to support military deployment in Eastern Europe. Then they moved NATO infrastructure next to our borders. Now the American, I think, F-35s, the latest planes, would be equipped with the modern version of nuclear bombs, and they would be deployed on the Russian borders. And this is not the United States territory. So it was not our intention, to drop from various treaties which used to serve as cornerstones for strategic stability. But when the ABM treaty was abrogated by the United States, George Bush told Vladimir Putin, I understand that you don't like it, but we are not enemies anymore, so if you want to take any precautions, any countermeasures, you are free to do so. Unfortunately, this missile defense project became quite disturbing for the global stability, and the plans to basically put the European segment and Asian segment makes us very much concerned, because there is a clear attempt to gain one-sided advantage. As regards plutonium agreement, I hope you know that the United States did not implement its obligations because they could not, they actually changed the method of utilizing plutonium, which was described in the agreement, and the agreement became invalid because the United States failed to implement its obligations. We did implement our obligations, and we will continue to do this. A couple of other agreements were about cooperation between Russia and the United States on nuclear issues, nuclear energy, but I explained to John Kerry long ago that 2 years and a half ago, soon after Ukrainian crisis, the Department of Energy sent a formal note to the Russian Federation saying that under the circumstances they suspend all cooperation under these agreements. So 2 years passed, nothing happened, they still don't want to cooperate, in spite of the fact that Kerry assured me that this was stupid and he would make sure that this is not the case, that our cooperation in nuclear energy and nuclear safety must not suffer. But probably nobody actually did anything. Take it as just registering the factual situation, not as us dropping from something which is live and important.
Okay, so I just want to ask you a quick question. Van Cliburn, the Texan musician, Van Cliburn was very, very well loved. A new book has come out about him, and it sort of raises a nostalgia for even during the Cold War, there was this cultural, joy between Russia and the United States. He was very well loved here, he was very well loved there. Tell me about that. When you think about that moment, how does it make you feel?
Well, I feel sorry for what is happening now in Russian-American relations. I believe we have a lot in common with the US people. and at the level of common citizens, we normally find very good understanding. Politicians have their own agenda, but I can only reaffirm that it was not us who started this very unhealthy kind of relationship. And this started long before Ukraine, long before Syria. I had a chance some time ago to address this issue. And let's remember about the Magnitsky Law, about what happened, what reaction was received from Washington after Snowden found himself on the Russian soil. President Obama even canceled his bilateral visit to Moscow because we did not extradite Snowden. And they really believe that we played a role in, attracting him to Russia and making him recruited by our security. It's a ridiculous situation because the guy was flying not to Russia, he was flying to some Latin American country. And as he took off from Hong Kong, as he was airborne, they deprived him of his passport, and we received a formal notification that his passport is invalid. And we could not legally allow him to board any plane. We couldn't allow him even to disembark in the Russian Federation. And so he was kept in the terminal, and then he addressed the request to give him some kind of asylum or refuge, and this was granted. But this case alone triggered such nervous reaction that, as I said, President Obama canceled his visit to Moscow. So being offended in politics and not being able to measure your response, I think sometimes brings us to very unfortunate mistakes.